Expansive, stretching more than 125 miles from east to west, encompassing both banks of the Missouri River in central Montana. The Charles M. Russell National Wildlife Refuge, or CMR, is big, even by Montana standards. At over 1 million acres, the CMR is not one destination, but many. Beginning at the eastern boundary, the refuge surrounds Fort Peck Lake's rugged shoreline. Fort Peck Dam and the Visitor Center make this an ideal starting point. Mighty Fort Peck Dam is a marvel to behold. The Army Corps of Engineers built this public works project, finishing in 1940. It's still the largest dam of its kind. You can learn more by visiting the Fort Peck Dam Interpretive Center and Museum. This cooperative effort between the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, and Fort Peck Paleontology has something for everyone. Inside are huge fossils of prehistoric creatures found in this region. Experience the awesome height of a Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the center's most prized exhibits. The two largest aquariums in the state offer a rare glimpse into a whole underwater world. A diorama explores the fascinating wildlife of CMR. The Corps' visitor staff and refuge interpretive specialist conduct many educational activities for visitors and children. Outside, paths guide visitors along wildlife viewing trails. Young people can connect with nature at one of the center's stocked ponds. Further west, north of Jordan, striking badlands cast unusual shapes. Rock domes and layered sediment, leftovers from ancient inland seas, texture the open range. This is home to pronghorn antelope. They feed and roam on the Big Sage Prairie. Beyond, the river makes a great turn to the south. This area, known as UL Bend, offers some of the most dramatic scenery on the refuge. Flat-top buttes and narrow ridges are home to bighorn sheep. Names like Killwoman Creek and Iron Stake Ridge testify to the rich history and difficulty of travel in this remote wilderness. Moving upstream to the western third of the refuge, the river's banks are bordered by grassy bottoms, timbered slopes, and patches of cottonwood and willow forest. These are broken up by numerous coulees, inflowing streams, and steep-sided bluffs. An open forest of pine, fir, and juniper blends together with patches of sagebrush and open swaths of prairie. This terrain is known locally as the breaks of the Missouri River. In combination, the varied landscapes make CMR a wildlife haven of unmatched scale. The refuge has its roots in the Old West. In the 1880s, a young cowboy artist named Charlie Russell captured the spirit of Montana's breaks country. Russell also advocated caring for the land in ways that were years ahead of his time. The refuge, which bears his name, now protects the area he cared so deeply about. Today, nature paints the landscape with her own brush, from wide vistas to the smallest details. At CMR, echoes of the past still shape the present. Indeed, parts of the region look much the same as when Lewis and Clark explored it 2 centuries ago. We observe in every direction buffalo, elk, antelopes, and mule deer, innumerable, and so gentle that we could approach near them with great ease. Captain William Clark, May 11th, 1805. 3 of the historic expedition's campsites along the Missouri River remain basically unchanged. Even before then, the Great Plains Indian nations of the Crow, Blackfeet, Nez Perce, and Sioux all prized the area's bountiful hunting. Rocks used long ago to hold down the edge of a teepee still mark an ancient scene. Later, homesteaders tried to scratch out a living from the region's poor soils. That story, too, is part of the present. One finds traces of antiquity tucked away in fields time forgot. Aged timbers tell the story of hardy souls who passed this way generations ago. These windows to the past frame a place still very much the same. Our journey starts with the empty canvas of winter. Nature etches strange shapes into the frigid land. Promises of the future remain hidden. Nature has well equipped those who endure this bitter season. Deer grow warm coats for insulation, while resident birds rely on their feathers for warmth. Bighorn sheep abandon windswept peaks in favor of a more agreeable setting. Eagles gather at Fort Peck Lake in large numbers. Tailwaters below the dam provide precious open water for them to fish. Winter scours the refuge. In this dry region, there may be little snow during winter, but temperatures can still dive well below zero. Even in such harsh conditions, nature holds on. Resident birds depend on seeds and buds to make it through the winter. Many shrubs provide nutritious foods for deer, pronghorn, and elk, even in deep snow. Stripped of their leaves, stately cottonwoods stand bare, awaiting spring's renewal. The river has been a ribbon of ice for months. The spring breakup of ice signals renewal to the stands of cottonwood and willows. The scouring ice deposits nutrient-rich silt as it grates its way downriver. Those nutrients form the base, which nourishes the valley's plants and animals. At last, winter loses its icy grasp. All around the refuge, one can hear spring's arrival. Sharp-tailed grouse begin their annual breeding ritual. Males compete on traditional mating grounds called leks each April. When a female grouse arrives, she sets off a flurry of activity. This odd display is one more reason to visit CMR. Sage grouse find a good home on CMR. Groups of these large birds gather for their odd courtship rituals each spring. The endangered pallid sturgeon is also making a comeback to this stretch of the Missouri River. Biologists are working to re-establish this integral part of the Big Muddy's ecosystem. Another strange-looking aquatic creature draws anglers each spring. Paddlefish gather in the waters of the Missouri River to spawn and give anglers a chance to catch these prehistoric fish. Fish and Wildlife's law enforcement officers ensure a safe time afield or on the water. Whether checking licenses, rescuing stranded campers and boaters, or keeping watch over the refuge's wild creatures, these men and women protect the refuge and its resources from an ever-increasing number of visitors. Artifacts, fossils, and shed antlers are all part of the refuge's natural history. Removing such items is not only illegal, but prevents others from enjoying them too.
Can you point?
Accessing the refuge's hundreds of miles of rough terrain can be a tricky business. Sticky gumbo soils can make roads impassable after only a brief shower. These dry plains scarcely receive a foot of rainfall per year. However, when the rain does come, storms can be fierce, flooding forgotten creek beds. Life-giving water collects in pools, giving frogs only a brief time to breathe. Insects, too, take advantage of short-lived opportunities. Young cottonwoods take root in mud banks, while mature trees witness this cycle for yet another year. Spring rains unmask the prairie's hidden beauty. The refuge is a collage, drawing rainbow hues from nature's palette. Pollinators such as bees perform essential work, ensuring the prairie's health for another year. 100 shades of green adorn hill and valley. The fresh growth makes a tasty meal after a winter of eating dry grasses and twigs. Even while snacking, a rabbit's long ears scan for signs of danger. Visitors are drawn to CMR by a kaleidoscope of color each spring. Overlooks along the auto tour route present amazing views, both far and near. Charles M. Russell is one link in a chain of over 550 refuges nationwide. These safe harbors provide vital habitats for America's wild creatures. They also provide encounters with nature for the cautious observer. The Missouri River is full of life. It was the beaver with its prized fur that drew many a frontier trapper west. Captain Meriwether Lewis noted in 1806, "The beaver of the Missouri were larger, fatter, more abundant, and better clad with fur than those in any other part of the country." Today, one can still spy these industrious mammals, as long as they don't spot you first. As temporary pools dry up, spring's abundance becomes a memory. Summer heat now parches the soil. But even in this lean time, life here is bustling. From tiny villages to somewhat larger ones, it's a busy place. Black-tailed prairie dogs live in extensive towns scattered across the refuge's prairies. Their network of burrows support a whole wildlife community, benefiting creatures from owls to snakes. One of the most endangered animals in the world, the black-footed ferret, relies solely on prairie dogs for food and living quarters. CMR is one of the few places researchers have reintroduced ferrets into their historic range. Prairie dogs keep the grass trimmed short, making it easier to spot danger. A prairie dog's alarm calls signal trouble. Everyone heads for their burrow. A hawk lands in hopes of a quick meal, But the prairie dogs escaped this time, leaving the hawk's feathers a little ruffled. In late summer, nature sketches with earth tones. The sun's heat has muted colors. Shades of brown and gray stand in stark relief to blue skies. In order to find good food, mule deer may travel many miles. Many bird species, such as grouse and sparrows, feed extensively on seeds and berries. Male pronghorn antelope stake out their territories for the breeding season. Young males butt heads in mock combat. A pronghorn antelope relies on its keen eyesight and unmatched speed to keep it safe. Its agility has awed viewers from the earliest explorers. When I beheld the rapidity of their flight on the river, it appeared rather the rapid flight of birds than the motion of quadrupeds. Captain Meriwether Lewis. It was the protection of these swift animals, along with sharp-tailed grouse, that resulted in President Franklin Roosevelt designating this area a federal game range in 1936. More recently, in the 1960s, the rugged area known as UL Bend was purchased with dollars from the sales of federal duck stamps. Much of UL Bend is managed as a wilderness, with access only by foot or horseback. This protects sensitive habitats and ensures wildlife an undisturbed place to live and raise their young. For people, it's a chance to engage nature on a personal level, for renewal of spirit and immersion in this vast landscape. The rocky terrain of UL Bend is a study in contrast. Layering of rock strata and jagged contours outline the remote wilds. This is home to bighorn sheep. During summer, females and their young occupy the highest and safest areas. Meanwhile, down along the river, young bull elk grow new antlers, preparing for battles to come. An afternoon thunderstorm brings life-giving rain. At sunset, a nighthawk serenades the prairie, sweeping across open range. Cottonwood trees are the harbingers of autumn. Gold gleaming at first in a few, then spreading across the valley in broad brushstrokes. Willows and saplings display a myriad of warm tones. A stand of cottonwoods glows vibrantly against blue sky. When the sun's rays warm the land, a dense fog rolls across the valley. Only eerie echoes hint at what lies behind this curtain. Forms drift in and out of the mist, like distant memories. As the leaves turn, so the elk's thoughts turn to matters of courtship. In the cathedral of these aged trees, the elk gather to bring forth a new generation. A bull elk, his antlers polished and massive. He uses them to win and keep his group of females, called a harem. For hours at a time, he paces his invisible boundary, keeping rivals at bay and ushering straying females back. For regardless of his size and power, it's the females that choose their mate. Bugling is how these monarchs of the refuge claim their territory and their harems. It's a challenge that sometimes escalates into conflict. Even the young bulls spar, preparing for a time in the future when they'll be challenged too. Just as the elk congregate on this wide plain, so do people. Families come from afar to witness this annual spectacle. Several recreation areas offer visitors a base to explore CMR. Though visitors depart, the drama of the elk continues into the night. A new day begins across the painted valleys and prairie of CMR. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service works to protect America's wildlife heritage in a variety of ways. Our nation's wildlife refuges serve as special protected areas for all wildlife. Biologists study many different animals here. Often information gleaned here is useful in other places as well. Fall brings hunters to the refuge. With once abundant grizzly bears and wolves now gone, today's sport hunter helps maintain game animal populations at healthy numbers. Lightning strikes cause sporadic wildfires. Responding to these wildfires is the job of the refuge's highly trained fire management specialists and fire crews. They may fully suppress the fire, or if conditions allow, monitor the fire until it goes out on its own. However, fire also plays an important beneficial role as well. As nature's cleansing agent, it reduces built-up ground litter and recycles vital plant nutrients. Many plants benefit from fire, and some even require it to complete their life cycle. After a century of suppressing fire, tree density has dramatically increased, slowly crowding out shrubs, forbs, and grasses that are vital for wildlife. Fire, like droughts and floods, is a normal ecological process necessary to maintain a healthy landscape. In recent decades, the refuge staff has integrated carefully managed prescribed burns to help restore the natural mix of range foods. Many of the refuge's plants are adapted for this dry climate. Big sage and blazing star are elements of a prairie legacy. Wildlife from grouse to antelope depend on them. A pastel sunrise is the artist's signature on nature's masterpiece. The Charles M. Russell National Wildlife Refuge is many things. A place to connect with nature. A wilderness escape. A brush with beauty. Witness to a history still unfolding. And wildlife on a grand scale. This is nature's timeless landscape.